Hi there, I'm Christine Dunbar from speechmodification.com, and this is my Smart American Accent training. Welcome to our live Saturday question and answer class. Thanks for your patience as I had some technical difficulties getting started, but we're going to go ahead and start class by talking about some difficult words, and then of course I'll take your questions. You can put them in the chat or in the comments at any time. So for these words, I want to talk about why some words are difficult to pronounce and use correctly, naturally, and fluently in English. There are a number of different reasons, and one of them is that sometimes certain words just are hard for us. That happens for native speakers as well. Something about the word makes it difficult for us to execute it and say it easily. But I've broken down the commonly mispronounced words or difficult words by a couple of categories. So we have some words that are difficult to pronounce because of the sounds in the words. So if your language doesn't have a TH sound or an R sound or certain vowel sounds like eh or I or ah, you're going to find words that are loaded with those sounds extra difficult to pronounce. Of course, even just saying those sounds can be hard. So if you think about, if you have a challenge with the R and TH sounds, a word like northern is really going to be tricky because you have to use those sounds, you have to combine them, you have to be able to say them smoothly. So some examples: northern, rural, or words like man and men, live and leave. These words are going to be difficult to pronounce because of the sounds in the word. And so the approach that I take for teaching words that are difficult because of the sounds is going to be different than what we would do if it's difficult because of the spelling. In this case, really working on those sounds in simpler words first, being able to master them, and then building your word around those difficult sounds, filling in the rest will help. We're going to talk about an example from each of these at the start of class today. I can take your difficult words as well, and eventually we'll work our way through all of these difficult words. For many of them, I already have videos here on the channel, but I wanted you to think about why something is hard, because that tends to make it easier than if we just feel overwhelmed by how difficult something is. Okay, so in addition to words being difficult because of the sounds that are in the word, sometimes it's actually the spelling of the word that gives us difficulty. So maybe the sounds aren't as challenging, but the way the word is spelled doesn't really make sense or doesn't match our expectations. Examples being a word like salmon. There's a silent letter in there, so we don't say the L. That can be confusing. Should I say the L? Shouldn't I say the L? A word like choir. We'll talk about that one in a few minutes. The sounds here don't match the spelling at all. So when I look at these letters, my mind does not think choir. It does for me now because, of course, I've memorized this word. It's a sight word for me. I can look at it and just know it says choir. But again, my approach is different if the word is difficult because of how it's spelled. So we'll look at that. Another example would be the word receipt. Letters and sounds, there's some silent letters in there. It's breaking our spelling patterns and rules such as we have them. So sounds can make words difficult, spelling can make words difficult, and sometimes both happen in the same word. These are definitely the most challenging words. So famous one for non-native speakers and even some native speakers would be the word squirrel. That's got a difficult combination of sounds, a strange spelling. A word like library is loaded with R's, not sure what those vowel letters might say. So let's break down some of these specific words, looking at why sounds, spelling, or both can give you a challenge with a word. And while I'm talking, feel free to put your questions in the chat. Think about words that you find difficult or other areas that you'd like to work on. And remember that you can always leave comments and requests on the channel. Okay, so we're going to start with a word that's difficult because of the sounds in the word. So for many people, as I mentioned, TH, R can be difficult. Looking at a word like northern, what I tend to try to teach is, first of all, knowing what the sounds are, the stress patterns, and the sequence. So I use the IPA symbols to tell you the exact sounds, and then alternative spelling as a way of visualizing it. In a word like northern, The spelling here you can see is actually no different than the real spelling of the word. But what I've done is broken it for you into syllables. And I use uppercase letters for the stressed syllable. So nor is going to be longer, thern is going to be shorter. Part of why this word is so difficult is that we have to do the TH and R close together, and this one is quick and unstressed. So you may be able to get the nor part, but then you might find it really difficult to combine it with the thern part. So in a word where the sounds are difficult, as I mentioned before, starting with the sounds can be very helpful, and also looking for building around those difficult sounds. So first I would just work on the nor part, work on the sound of or. If or is difficult for you, then work on the word or, for, store, nor. Lots of practice with that or sound. After you have or, put your n back on, nor. And then turn here to the thern part. Again, I would build from the When there's th and r, if I start with th and just do th, it's going to be difficult to get my position quickly enough. I'm going to end up with I'll end up with something too soft there. If I start with my and then I add my th back, I'm going to have more success. Ther. And then even more difficult, thern, you may have to break it again and do the plus the n. Earn. So the back of my tongue is in that tight position, front of the tongue lifts. Finally, put it all together. You might want to start here, thern, northern. Take it slow, build up a little bit at a time. Also, be aware that even though we have north, this th is voiceless, no vibration here. In northern, it changes to the voiced ther sound. My vocal folds are vibrating in northern. Once you can say northern, you've broken it down, you've put it back together, it's coming out more smoothly. Don't forget to practice it in some short phrases, because you might find you've mastered it, but then you go to say the northern states or the northern part of the country, the northern hemisphere, and it still gives you trouble. Okay, so this was our example for a word that's difficult because of sounds. We'll cover some more in future videos as well. Let me know which words you find difficult and whether or not you think it's because of the sounds or because of the spelling. So looking at our next word, in this word, choir, I mentioned before that the difficulty is less about the sounds and more about the letters or the spelling. So for a word where the difficulty comes from the spelling, it's really about knowing what are the sounds in this word. And this is where rewriting the word, following spelling conventions or rules can be very helpful. So if you don't know how to read the IPA symbols in the dictionary, that's one resource where you can use your ear to listen to a dictionary. You can listen to what sounds you hear and you can try to match it. So if you were looking at an online dictionary, you click on this word, you're going to hear them say choir. So listening, first we have the k sound, then the w glide. This is the gliding diphthong I, like in light or night. And then that I goes right into the ire. So it's really a triphthong R blend. So what I've done is I've rewritten that ire with IRE. That's how we spell it in words like wire, fire, tire. And I've rewritten the qu with a K and a W. Another way we spell this, so we don't actually write words with K and W, we also use that qu sound as a QU. So another way you can think of this, if you're familiar with the word require, that choir spelled that way is the same pronunciation as this one. So you can see why these letters, in both cases, they don't really tell you choir. But if you're used to the spelling of ire with these letters and wire this way, then that might be a great way to train your brain and picture the KWIRE, choir, for this word choir. Now this, you may have some difficulty pronouncing the sounds in this as well. It does have the ire gliding diphthong. It does have the w sound together with qu, which might not be easy for everyone. So if sounds give you difficulty here, I would build again from the R, doing ire, wire, choir. Or using words like require. We require the choir to have practice outside of rehearsal. Okay, so this is an example of the letters, the spelling, making the word difficult. We initially talked about an example for the sounds making a word difficult, but what about if we have both? So there's many words that not only are difficult because of the sounds in them, but also how they're spelled. And I chose this to talk about this word right after choir because you remember we had the word require, we had the Q-U-I-R, and here we have that same combination, but now suddenly we're having the quirr sound here, squirrel, squirrel. Not only is that difficult to interpret what these letters should say, but also the combination of sounds in this word are difficult. So this word is difficult because of sounds and because of spelling. And so it's definitely one that's challenging to master, and native speakers have to work as well on this. Let's break down how to pronounce squirrel. So first of all, we have first syllable stress, and the letters Q-U say the qu sound. So then my IR says in this word. I've rewritten that for you with letters ER, squirr, squirrel. The IR spelling also happens in words like bird. So there are other words that have IR that say the sound. Basically, is not a gliding sound. There's no ear, ire, We're just doing one sound, static position, tongue is back and tight. And that's where I would start with this word. I would start with the sound, then add your W back. So just like the word were, were. Then add your k sound, quirr, quirr. Finally add your s back, squirr, squirr. It's actually similar to the word square, but this one has the air sound. So if that helps you think of how to say the sounds, or you may also find square difficult to say. So square has a gliding air. Squirr, first part of squirrel, just has the sound, squirr. And then we have to go from the to the which is again a very difficult combination. We do this in words like girl, world. Many people find that difficult to go from the R to the L. And I think often what's happening there is that it's the dark L that's giving people trouble. So I always recommend using that sound and mastering that L by itself, thinking of it as having a vowel before the L. So even though we spell that vowel with letter E in this word, it's really more of an sound, squirrel, or even an sound, like in pull or wool. So you can use those words if they're easier for you, pull, wool, and then just pull the part, squirrel, So thinking of it as really gliding It's easier in this word, I think, because it's not easy, but it's a little bit easier to see how that happens because there's a vowel letter there, squirrel, 2 syllables. In a word like girl or world, because the R and L are right together, people don't always realize there's still a sound in between them. As we glide from the to the we need that or sound to happen. So again, working on these sounds individually will help. Rewriting this word in a way that makes sense to your brain, so that you know what sounds you're supposed to be saying, and then just practicing building it bit by bit, finding where you find that difficulty and challenge and doing a lot of practice on that. So you can start with squirrel, squirrel, and just be patient with yourself. If you find a word like this difficult, of course it's hard. It's because of the sounds and the spelling. That combination makes it extra difficult to pronounce. So I hope you found that helpful, that breakdown of different ways and reasons why words are difficult to pronounce. And know that there's always going to be a solution. There's no word that's going to be impossible to say. You'll just definitely find that some are more difficult than others and require extra attention. And knowing why a word is difficult can really help it sometimes become less difficult, or at least help you know how to practice to master it. So I talk about those techniques in individual videos for individual words here on the channel. You can always use the search tools on the channel or leave me a comment asking me if I have a video about your word, and I'll direct you to where you can find that. So nice to see so many of you here this morning. Again, sorry about the late start. If you're just joining or if you're watching later as a replay, put your questions in the comments and I'll turn to those after class. And now I'm going to go and check out the chat and see, welcome everyone, and start answering your questions. So thanks for being patient while I talked about difficult words at the start. Okay, we have a question about the word privilege. So looking at privilege, this is a word where in privilege we have, it looks kind of like 3 syllables. So let's break down and look at how to pronounce privilege. It's not wrong for me to say privilege, but this is an example where the unstressed syllable in the middle is going to typically get very reduced, and we may say it more just like privilege. So I'm really going to shorten, not have much vowel there at all in the middle, maybe even go directly from priv to lidge. Privilege, privilege. First syllable stress, letter I says the I sound. You may or may not have a middle I for this letter I, privilege or privilege. And then even though this looks like the word ledge, in the word ledge it would have the eh sound because it would be stressed. In the word privilege it has the I sound because it's unstressed and it's a reduced vowel. So I wrote that here with letter I. You could think of DGE just as the J sound, but we don't typically spell it with J at the ends of words. We spell it with GE or DGE like in edge or ledge. So again, first syllable stress, this one's going to be longer, privilege, privilege. It's a privilege to have this class each week and see so many of you coming back week after week. So thank you for that request, and I hope that helps you with the word privilege. Okay, we have a question about fluent speech when connecting. Connecting you, like I think you could have, can you call me, what are you doing? Okay, so with the word you, when I say it by itself or it's stressed, it's going to have a clear oo vowel. It'll sound like you. What are you doing? Could you come over? You think that. So that's the clear and regular pronunciation. Sometimes, though, it's unstressed, especially when it's linked. It's not often the most important word, and it may sound a little more like ya with a reduced vowel. So, for example, could you help me? Could you? Could you help me? Could you do it? Your words were, I think you could have. I think you could have. So in that one, you could do I think you could have, or I think you could have. We don't always lose that oo vowel. I would say if I were saying I think you could have, I probably will just say you shorter duration, but I would keep the oo vowel. In something like, can you call me? Can you call me? Call is going to be stressed. And you don't want to be too clear there. If I was stressing on it, can you call me? Can you call me? That's changing the meaning a little bit, right? If I'm saying, can you call me? I'm indicating like you wanted me to call, and instead I'm saying you should call. So normally, can you call me? You might hear a ya or a very short oo there. Can you call me? Because call is going to be stressed. Can you call me? Can you call me later? And then what are you doing? What are you doing? Same thing. I do have a video specifically for this. It's going to end up sounding like, what are you? Because do is stressed. What are you doing? What are you doing? It's all right if you use a oo there. What are you doing? You just want to be very short on the word you. So either oo or and quite short. Yeah, that's a great question. I do have some videos talking about the reduced U here on the channel in my reduced sounds and linking playlist. That's also something I cover in detail in my Real Talk course on speechmodification.com. That's my advanced American accent training that looks at fluent speaking, reductions, linking. It teaches you to use TV and movies to hear that connected and natural sounding fluent speech. And you can check that out on our website, speechmodification.com. Okay, let's take a look at... Oh, thank you so much for the gift. Wonderful to see you here week after week. E-Sky, I don't know how I would say that, but it's wonderful that you're supporting the channel. I truly appreciate it. And let's look at your word Gestapo. So I do think I have a video for this, Gestapo and gazpacho, after there was a issue with Marjorie Taylor Greene, switching those two. In Gestapo, it's a German word, so letter G is going to be capitalized. The stress is on the sta syllable, and letter S says the SH sound in German. So Gesta, letter A says the A sound in German, and then it's just going to be a short O, Gestapo, O. I mean, in American English, O, we might use our diphthong O anyway. And then in German, they'd use a little more Gestapo. They have kind of a different vowel there. We're just going to use more of an sound because it's not stressed in American English. So looking at the IPA, we would have Gestapo for American English. You might hear some people say Gestapo with an S instead of SH for an English version of this word, but I think most people... it's so associated with the German that I do think people know to pronounce that correctly with the SH sound, Gestapo. Thanks again for your support, your continued support of the channel. Okay, we have a question about clarifying how to pronounce penguin and focus. Luckily for you, both of those words are part of our Word of the Day challenge on our new channel, Pronounce English. So we have a spin-off channel doing a monthly, for the month of January, a new word each day. We just covered focus recently, so I'll cover that briefly for you now, and we'll be covering penguin soon. So for focus, what you want to focus on is making sure that you have a good O diphthong here in the first syllable. It's stressed, it's long, and it's the pure O, gliding O sound. And then for the second vowel, you really want to make sure that you're quite reduced. So it's going to show as a schwa in the dictionary. So some of the errors that I hear is that people will make these two vowels too similar. If we have an vowel in this first syllable, it creates a problem. It sounds too close to a bad phrase. So you really want to focus on nice, good rounding on your faux, and then very short, almost no vowel at all in that last syllable. Kiss, focus. You can think about it as an I or an If it helps you to think of the word kiss, you can, or you can think of it as cuss. But mostly you don't want a vowel there at all. You just want to go as quickly as you can from the k to this focus. I hope that helps me focus. I've lost my focus. That's an important word that we use a lot, and many people will see this letter U and say more of an oo sound, or they won't be long enough in that O vowel or round enough in that vowel, and then if the two vowels sound too similar, the word will be incorrect, and it may sound like a curse word in English. So thanks for bringing that up. You can get more details and more help for that in our videos. We do have several here on this channel, and also, as I mentioned, in our Word of the Day on Pronounce English, our new channel. Okay, we have a question about the word pillar. as in a pillar of society. So let's look at how to pronounce pillar. Let's also talk about, while we're at it, the word pillow, because I think these words are similar enough that you may have errors across them. So in pillar, we have first syllable stress. Letter I says the I sound. And letters AR say the sound. So usually when we have AR or OR at the end of the word, it doesn't say R or, it just says It's short and reduced and unstressed. So you do need that tight American R, but no diphthong, no ah or o before it, just And then the beginning of the word is just like the word pill. So pillar, pillar. There were several pillars on the building. The person is a pillar of the community. Okay, and then when we look at pillow, we have an O rather than an here. So same first syllable stress, same vowels in the beginning, and then just thinking of that O being nice and round and then kind of closing as we finish the diphthong, pillow. So I got a new pillow. There are several pillows on the bed. IPA for pillow, we're going to have the O there. So clear vowel on the end, but shorter because it still has first syllable stress. So when you're doing pillar, pillar, make sure that you just are able to put the on even though it's unstressed. Thank you for that request. You didn't ask for pillow, but I hope that contrast helped you compare the two. Okay, great. We have a question about the O diphthong in words like coherent or coauthor. When using bold voice, it's flagged as drifting to ah. Try to narrow the lips, but overshoot to an ah sound. So I would say in a word like coherent or coauthor, these two I would say are slightly different in that in the word coherent, the O in the dictionary, they're probably going to show it as coherent. But I think in reality, coherent, because we stress on the here, it is going to be a little bit of a very short O and maybe even reduced to a schwa. I mean, I don't want to say coherent, right? It can't be a reduced schwa, but I definitely don't say coherent. That's going to be too long and overpronounced. Coherent. So one thing you could think about is if I'm saying, for example, a word like coast, where the O is stressed, it's the main vowel, coast. I'm going to have a lot of length there. And then in coherent, I really want to just keep that same kind of O shape, coherent, but keep it nice and short. So if your tendency is to do something a little bit more like coherent, you're probably opening too much, coherent. So think about closing and don't worry so much about sliding on this one, coherent. It may be more actually like the Turkish O or non-native English O, that shorter undiphthong O. In coauthor, this one's going to get a little bit more stress because my coauthor, it's going to have secondary stress while author is going to have the main stress. And you're going to end up with a little bit of vowel to vowel linking there with coauthor. So as you move from the rounded O to the ah, which is also rounded but a back vowel, coauthor, that vowel to vowel linking, if that's missing, it's going to maybe hear it as a different sound, or you're maybe losing that too much and going right to the aw of author, coauthor. So think about it like coauthor, making sure that you're gliding from that O and that the W naturally connects those two. So those are a couple of tips I would suggest with those two words starting with O. This one's going to be longer and linked with the W. This one's going to be shorter, still an O, but unstressed. And remember that, of course, using apps is great, I think, for ballpark big errors, but the problem with speech recognition technology is it's not always context friendly. It's not always going to be exact in its feedback to you. So take what it says with a grain of salt, especially when you're at a more advanced level like you are. Okay. We have a question about the most challenging thing is TT, like in battle or bottle. Yeah. Okay. So again, this is one where if we're looking at battle or bottle, what we're struggling with here is how these words are spelled versus how they're pronounced. So let's take a look at battle and bottle and how you say the T sound in these. So both of these have what's called the flap T. So they're not going to sound like battle or bottle. I'm not going to use the same T I use at the start of words, the T, aspirated T. Instead, I'm going to use a flap, which we use for T and D in the middle of words for many words. So just when I said now middle, that's going to have the same sound as battle or bottle. So if this one's easy for you to say naturally, middle, then use that respelling and think about battle as battle. If that still gives you trouble, it's probably because the combination of the flap T and syllabic L is not easy. It can be difficult. So battle and bottle, one way is to respell them with that DD, if that helps you. The second is to practice breaking down the word. So in battle, we're going to have the flap T is one tap up of the tongue. So it's like one roll of a rolled R. Some people can visualize it as an R. I think that's a little confusing in spelling, but if that helps you, if you have a flap R in your language, think of it as an R. I'm going to be going from that flap sound almost directly to the sound. Maybe a little bit of an or an in there, dull, dull. And what's challenging there is when I do battle, dull, battle, I have to change the shape of my tongue. It's staying put on both the d and the touch behind the teeth, but the air escapes from the sides. The d or the flap, it's going to touch up in the front spot, and the sides of the tongue are going to be lifted as well. So maybe break it down from doing battle, battle, if that helps you. Also practice that flap T in words like getting or hitting, batting. That will help you tell whether or not it's the flap T that gives you trouble. If this is easy, doing getting or batting, then it's probably the combination of the flap T and the L that's going to be most difficult. A lot of people find a lot of difficulty too when the flap T is followed by an sound like batter or better. So breaking down and working on the sounds in different contexts can be helpful, and then working it back into this context that's the most difficult for you. So I agree, words like battle, bottle, middle can be difficult because of those combinations. Coming at it from some different ways and figuring out what makes it difficult for you can be very helpful. So I hope that helped you with battle and bottle. Thanks for your question, and thanks for being here today. Nice to see so many of you here. Hope your weekend is going well so far, and I'm enjoying these Saturday classes with you. I do truly appreciate your support to the channel, those of you who've subscribed and joined as channel members, and I'm seeing a lot of you also on my online courses on speechmodification.com, and that's really wonderful to see you taking advantage of those resources as well. Okay, yes, so you did hear Gestapo with the S as well. So you can use it either way. If people around you are using it that way and that feels more comfortable, you can use kind of the Americanized version versus the German Gestapo. Okay. The question is, the T in meet, nice to meet you, is somewhat difficult for me. If it is a stop T, how should the tongue be positioned, floor of the mouth or behind the front teeth? Okay, so when you're saying nice to meet you, you're going from a stop T, unreleased T, to the y sound of you. So meet you, you. Generally speaking, anytime we do a T, this is a flap T, so I actually need a stop T. Anytime we do a T, the tongue needs to be up behind the teeth. There are some places where we might pull that further back or stop it in the throat a little bit. Meet you. This is not one of them. In you, the y sound is really a glide. And we do, for the glide ya, we do kind of basically an E to an sound. So if I think of ya, it's just a slow movement between these two vowel positions, ya, ya. So when I do meet you, basically my tongue is very close to where it needs to be for the start of the E. So I'm going to touch it up to the roof of the mouth, the tip of the tongue, and then I'll drop it back down a tiny bit to start the ya. So there's space between my tongue and the top of the mouth when I do the ya sound. So nice to meet you, meet you, meet you. I guess I could also stop the tongue with the top of the tongue already in the ya position, but I may need to block the air to make sure that it doesn't sound like me ya, right? We need that stopping and blocking with the tongue. Nice to meet you, meet you, meet you. Yeah, I think I'm actually kind of anchoring the tongue where the ya starts here on the sides, meet ya, and stopping the air further back in my mouth to make that transition smoothly. Very technical details there, but it's good to see what contexts it's hard to do. Like if it's easy for you to do meet some friends, meet some, then you know that the T to S combination is easier and the T to Y or Y combination is more difficult. So it's going to take kind of breaking it down. I would also try to use other words that have the same combination. So like meet young people, did we meet yesterday, etc. So that you're able to do that combination of sounds in more contexts as well. Yeah, thank you. That is a difficult combination. Getting used to using those stopped and flap T's is not simple if it's not part of your native repertoire. And so a lot of practice in as many different word combinations as you can should be helpful for you. Okay, we'll take a couple more questions and then we'll need to wrap up for today. Sorry about the late start. Had some technical difficulties with my equipment, but we're here now. So we have one of our channel members here today who has a question about coat and quote. So that's a great question. Let's look at how to pronounce coat and quote. So these are exactly the same, except that the initial sound of quote has the w sound, whereas coat just has the k sound. So they both have the O diphthong spelled with OA here and just O here. And they both have the t at the end. Thinking of this as quote and coat, that way I can visually see what's different about the two of them. That this one, I need to go from the k to the w sound. So when I'm saying co, my mouth can already be kind of open for that O, and I'm just lifting the tongue in the back. Coat. When I'm saying quo, I have to start k with my mouth open and then briefly close my lips before the O. Quote. I do know that a lot of people have trouble with the combination of O and W, like woe or woven. That's because the O is already a round shape, but woe opens to that O. So again, like we were talking about with our earlier glide, the y glide, w is also a glide. It's basically sometimes called a semivowel because it's gliding between two vowel positions. So it's the w. It took me a minute to figure it out. We're going from the oo position to the position. The oo, my lips are more closed than they are in the o. So thinking of it as ooh for the W sound, And then I go right back from the to the O. Whoa, whoa. So if you make kind of an oo shape as you're trying to do this from the K, kwa, kwa, you should feel that your lips are very pursed. Quo, quo. And then that should help you with that combination. So it probably is the W to O combination that's making that difficult for you. And hopefully visualizing this helps you feel the difference between the two. I would also just work on other words with W and O, like wove, woe. Yeah, there aren't too many, fortunately. There's some other quo words, quotation, etc., quota. All of those words might give you some trouble. So thank you for bringing that up. That's definitely a challenging sound. If you leave me a comment after class, I'll make sure to direct you to some resources I have for combining that W and O sounds. And if you're a channel member who's at the online course or above, make sure that you also reach out to me by email, Christine@speechmodification.com. I'll direct you to how to get signed up for your online courses that are part of the membership. So thank you for being a channel member. Okay, we have another channel member asking about exercises for the bass sound of schwa. So I would say just focusing on using kind of the sounds, resting the tongue at the base of the teeth, and then using some phrases that are loaded with schwa. So using a word like just or some and fun. One, using some of these words together with schwa words like just some fun, just some money, one fun money, just because, using a lot of combinations where the main vowel connecting is the sound can help you get that bass more solid. And then noticing like where the error happens. For many people, the error is too much tension and too much opening, moving more towards an sound. Being able to keep that very lax and relaxed in the bottom of the teeth. Some, just some small movements, and connecting that sound should help you with that bass sound of schwa. In my online courses, I do talk about the schwa and what words it's in, and some combinations, 2-word combinations and longer phrases loaded with schwas, and you might find that helpful as well. Okay, we have a question about the word evening, and does the middle E remain silent? Great question. So let's look at how to pronounce evening. So even though we have the word even with 2 syllables, that's even, sounds like even. In evening, you should think about it more like the word eve plus ning. So we don't say evening, we just say evening. So good evening, I'll see you this evening, in the evening. So it's kind of weird because it's not based on the word even, it's based on the word eve, where the E is silent. This E just makes the first E say the E sound, follows that spelling convention of silent E, makes the E say its name. So the IPA for this would be evening, this syllable being stressed. So that's a great question. It does look like even if you think about it breaking here. Instead, think about it breaking here, evening. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I like that question. Okay, great. Let's take a look at any other questions I might have missed. Please feel free to, if I missed your question, you can always leave it in a comment after class, and I'll go back and give you resources here on the channel, or add your word to cover in my Word of the Day series on our new channel, Pronounce English. We have a question about the word temperament. So this is another one that looks like temperament, but we tend to just say temperament. We kind of condense these 2 syllables into one. So it ends up sounding like temperament. She has a good temperament. the baby's temperament, a temperamental baby, etc. So IPA is going to be the vowel for letter E, temp. And then in the IPA, they're probably going to show it as temp with this optional temperament. I don't think they're going to show temperament. I'd have to look in the dictionary to see. But generally, the most common pronunciation in American English for this word is temperament. Yeah, that's a tough one too, because I'd say the spelling makes it look like it should be 1, 2, 3, 4 syllables. We don't have much vowel here at the end, and we condense those 2 syllables just to a pr instead of a pr. Yeah, good question. Thank you. Okay, I think I caught everybody's questions today. It's wonderful to see so many of you here, and I appreciate your continued support of the channel, watching our videos throughout the week. On Tuesday, we'll have a new video for you, and we may also have a few videos debuting tomorrow as well, so come back to the channel to check that out. We'll be covering some more difficult words in the future, and of course, our theme will also continue with our fluent speaking, other areas to help you. Let me know in the comments what other topics you'd like to see for our main beginning of class. And of course, you can continue to ask your specific questions about words, fluent speaking, and more here during class. Thanks so much for watching and being a part of the channel, and I appreciate all of your support. I'm Christine Dunbar from speechmodification.com. Remember, if you want to sound like a native speaker, you can do it. speechmodification.com. Bye, everyone. Looking forward to seeing you in the next class.